Welcome back to operation training for the Aaron Zenith for lesson 2, before operation. In this section, we check the fluids, verify the safe and efficient operating condition of the mower, make adjustments, and do whatever necessary prior to using the machine. More specifically, we'll check the engine oil and hydraulic fluid levels, test the functions of the controls, confirm the correct operation of the safety interlock system, and adjust for your comfort and mowing application. So if you're ready to go, let's jump in. Start each workday by checking the engine oil level. Move the unit to a flat, level surface and stop the engine. Remove the dipstick and wipe it clean with a rag or cloth. Reinstall the dipstick, but do not screw the top down. Turn it counterclockwise so the dipstick cap sits on the top of the fill port threads. Wait a few seconds, remove the dipstick, and check that the oil level is between the add and full marks. If the oil reaches a level outside of the add and full marks, add or drain oil as necessary before starting the engine. Refer to your engine manual for details, including oil weight rating and volume specifications. If the oil level is adequate, reinstall the dipstick and tighten it. Dirty air filters restrict the engine air intake, reducing your efficiency and power output. That's why it's important to check the filters for dust, dirt, and debris daily, and to change the filters if necessary. To check your air filters, release the canister cover clasps and remove the filter cover. Inspect both the outer and inner air filters to ensure they're not plugged, soiled, or damaged. If they're in poor condition, replace them. If they're in good condition, reinstall the filters and the air filter cover. With the unit on a flat, level surface, check the fluid levels of both hydraulic oil expansion tanks. With a cold engine, the oil level must reach the cold fill line of each tank. If the oil levels are adequate, start the engine and allow it to operate for 1 minute. After 60 seconds, stop the engine and recheck the fluid levels. If the oil level of either tank falls below the cold fill line, add 15W50 synthetic motor oil until the oil level reaches the cold fill line. Let's review those steps. Before starting, check the fluid levels of both hydraulic oil expansion tanks. With a cold engine, the fluid should reach the cold fill line of each tank at minimum. If the level is low, add 15W50 synthetic motor oil as needed. When the fluid level of both tanks is adequate, operate the engine for 1 minute, then stop the engine and recheck the oil levels. If the fluid level of either tank dips below the cold fill line, add oil as needed. Check that each tire pressure rating is within the specification listed in your operator's manual and that the tire pressures are equal. Add or reduce pressure if necessary and reinstall the valve stem caps when finished. Remember to also check the pressures of each front caster wheel. Same applies here. Ensure the pressures are within spec and equal. Check the fuel level by looking at the fuel tank sight window below the seat. To add petrol, move the unit to an open, well-ventilated area and remove the fuel tank cap. Only fill the tank with fresh, unleaded petrol with an octane rating of 87 or higher and with an ethanol content no greater than 10%, meaning E10 is acceptable. When finished, turn the cap until it clicks. As a reminder, never use fuel blends with an ethanol content greater than 10%, such as E20, E30, or E85. Refer to your operator's manual and engine manual for details. Now with the machine off, check the area under and around the deck for obstructions and debris. With the engine off and the key removed from the unit, remove the deck belt guarding to check for grass and debris accumulation around the idlers and spindle pulleys. Clear any debris that's present and reinstall the covers and bolt-on access plate when finished. Also check for grass accumulation and obstructions under the deck. If caked-on grass is present, remove the blades and clean the deck before mowing so your cut quality isn't affected. Leaving caked-on grass accumulation under the deck disrupts the aerodynamics within your deck's cutting chamber and diminishes your cut quality. So if you want to keep your professional reputation intact, we recommend regularly cleaning debris from under the deck. And again, never clean under the deck without removing the blades first. Now, let's check the functions of the controls. The parking brake lever must move up and down. The PTO switch must move up and down. The choke control knob must move out and in. The throttle control lever must move forward and back. The steering levers must move completely forward, completely backward, and inward and outward. The seat slide lever must unlock and lock the seat's position. The ROPS must move across its full range of travel. The deck lift system must move freely and easily, and the transport lock release lever must release the deck from its transport position. If any of the controls don't function correctly, resolve the issues before starting. Now let's take a closer look at the parking brake to ensure it's functioning correctly. To check the parking brake, stop the engine on a flat, level surface. Engage the brake and bypass the transaxles by pulling each bypass lever out and inward. Try pushing the unit. If the unit doesn't move, your brake is within adjustment and working correctly. If the unit moves, adjust the parking brake according to the instructions in your operator's manual. When finished, push both bypass levers back in to drive the unit normally. Included in these safety checks is verifying that the safety interlock system functions correctly. Every Ariens Zero Turn is equipped with a safety interlock system that prevents the engine from starting unless certain conditions exist. Checking this system requires starting the engine, so read the starting instructions in the operator's manual beforehand. The engine will only start if the steering levers are in their neutral positions, with the PTO switch in the down position and the parking brake engaged. Let's see that one more time. Brake engaged, PTO switch down, and the engine starts. You'll notice I didn't actually bring the steering levers to neutral before starting. That's because a well-adjusted parking brake places the steering levers in their neutral positions when engaged. So as long as the parking brake is within adjustment, you shouldn't need to worry about the steering lever positions. If the parking brake doesn't hold the controls in neutral, you'll need to make the adjustments instructed in your operator's manual. Now let's show you some scenarios where the safety interlock system prevents the engine from starting. The engine will not start if the PTO is in the up position, or if the parking brake is released. Resolve those issues, turn the key, and the engine starts. Aside from starting, the safety interlock system also stops the engine under certain conditions. If the operator disengages the parking brake and lifts off the seat when the engine is operating, the engine stops. If the operator first engages the parking brake, the engine continues operating when the operator lifts off the seat, but only if the PTO is disengaged. If the PTO switches up or engaged when the operator lifts off the seat, the engine will stop, even if the parking brake is engaged. That was a lot, so let's review what we just watched. The engine will only start if the PTO switch is pushed down, if the parking brake is engaged, and if the steering levers are in neutral. Again, a well-adjusted parking brake will hold the steering levers in neutral. The engine will not start if either are out of those positions. If the operator lifts off the seat when the engine is operating and the parking brake is engaged, the engine continues operating. However, if the PTO switches up and the blades are engaged, the engine stops when the operator lifts off the seat, regardless of the parking brake position. If the safety interlock system doesn't function correctly, do not operate the unit until your authorized Ariens service partner resolves the issue. Now, let's learn how to stop in an emergency. In case of an emergency, use the steering levers to bring the machine to a stop. Engage the parking brake, push the PTO switch down, then turn the key to the off position, remove it, and exit the unit. Let's break that down once more. In an emergency, there's 4 things you need to do before safely exiting the unit. First, stop the machine. Next, engage the parking brake. Third, disengage the blades. And last, turn the key to off, remove it, and exit the unit.
Don't take time to adjust the throttle or wait for the engine to slow to idle when stopping in an emergency.
Now that we confirm the machine is in good operating condition, we'll make a few adjustments for your comfort and cut quality, starting with deck pitch. Deck pitch is the difference between the height at the front of your deck compared to the height at the rear. And for the best cut quality, you'll want the deck pitched 0.6 centimeters or 1/4 inch lower at the front than at the rear. With the way our deck hangers are designed, this adjustment can be completed in minutes with just a couple hand tools.
To add pitch, move the unit to a flat, level surface and confirm the tire pressures are equal. Set your cutting height to 8.9 centimeters or 3.5 inches. Carefully rotate the blades so they're positioned front to back and measure the distance between the front blade tips and the surface you're working on. This measurement should be equal to your cutting height, but if either or both measurements are off, adjust the corresponding deck hanger by loosening its jam nut and turning the adjustment bolts to raise or lower that deck corner. Confirm the measurement. If both distances match your cutting height setting, tighten the jam nut on the hanger or hangers that were adjusted. Then measure the distances between the rear blade tips and the surface you're working on. These should be about 0.6 centimeters or 1/4 inch higher than the front measurements. If adjustments are needed, loosen the jam nut on the rear deck hangers, turn the bolts, and re-measure. Like earlier, tighten the jam nuts on the deck hangers after your adjustments are complete.
Completing a deck pitch adjustment is extremely similar to adjusting your deck to be level. The only difference is that instead of fine-tuning the deck from front to back, we're adjusting the deck to be level from side to side. The cool part is that if your pitch adjustment was performed correctly, your deck should already be level. Refer to your operator's manual for details on these adjustments. Now, let's adjust the ROPS.
Before cutting, raise the rollover protection structure, or ROPS, into its upright position. Remove the pins through the structure. Rotate the ROPS to align with the holes in the hinge plates, reinstall the pins, and secure them with the hairpins attached to the lanyards.
When operating with the ROPS in the raised position, you must always wear your seatbelt.
The ROPS can also be lowered to drive under obstacles, such as low tree branches, and to achieve the needed clearance when trailering and storing the machine. Do not wear your seatbelt when operating with the ROPS in the lowered position.
Now we'll adjust your cockpit so it's comfortable for you.
Starting with the seat, lift the adjustment lever to position yourself in a spot that allows you to comfortably reach the footrest and easily reach the deck lift pedal. When you find a comfortable position, release the adjustment lever to lock the seat in place. The steering lever positions can also be adjusted. To raise or lower the steering levers, remove the hardware retaining the steering lever assemblies to the steering lever arms, reposition as desired, and reinstall the hardware. Leave the hardware somewhat loose so the steering levers can be positioned closer to or farther from the operator, then tighten the hardware. Fine-tune your height adjustment by loosening the eccentric spacer hardware and turning the spacer until the steering lever rests at an appropriate height that's even with the other steering lever. Tighten the hardware after the adjustment is complete.
Finally, we'll select a cutting height that's appropriate for the grass type and property you're cutting.
To change cutting height, push the deck lift pedal completely forward to lock the deck in its transport position. When locked, place the height adjuster pin in one of the unit's 15 cutting height settings from 4 to 13 centimeters. After your pin is placed, push the deck lift pedal forward, push the transport lock release lever down, and slowly release the deck lift pedal until your deck rests at your cutting height setting.
That completes part 2. To review, this lesson went through pre-cutting inspections and adjustments like fluid level checks, checking the functionality of all controls, the safety interlock system, cockpit comfort settings, and deck pitch and cutting height adjustments to get a premium cut quality from your Ariens Zero Turn. Before advancing to our final lesson, take this opportunity to review this material in your operator's manual and ask questions from your team leaders. That's all for now, but we'll see you in part 3.